I didn't actually steal a banana from a monkey. I recognize that the title might be a little more playful than you're accustomed to, but I want to be clear at the outset, I didn't take the banana from the monkey. The monkey didn't have the banana yet when I took the banana. Last summer, as many of you know, I spent the month of July volunteering at La Senda Verde, an animal refuge in Bolivia. And for the vast majority of my time there, I was assigned to work with a guy named Juan Pablo, and he was in charge of all of the primates. And so he gave me the task of cleaning the enclosures and feeding 3 different families of howler monkeys. And by the time I left, I was pretty confident. I mean, he was confident enough in me that he didn't feel like he needed to watch what I was doing every day, all the time. And it was such an amazing experience, and I learned so much. I mean, first of all, for the majority of my time there, I got to play with monkeys almost every single day. Now, sometimes they're playing on their terms. I'm actually trying to clean, and they just decide to jump on your back and say, "What are you doing? You're in my enclosure." They're endlessly inquisitive and endlessly interesting. But I also, while I was there, I lost weight. See, it was an animal refuge. It was not a posh resort with fine dining. I lived and ate as an average, I guess, or maybe slightly below average Bolivian, which is much more Spartan than the average American lives and eats. Most of our diet was pretty plain. It consisted of carbohydrates with just a tiny hint of protein and virtually no fruits and vegetables. So one day, as I was preparing the meal for the monkeys, I was really hungry. And my task was to cut these bananas into about 3-inch sections. We put them in a bowl and then add something, sometimes lettuce, beets or mangoes or other things. They had an assorted diet, a varied diet, and were well cared for in this refuge. But as I was standing there, I was really, really hungry. And I have to add that I love bananas. I've always loved bananas. I love the taste of them. I like that they're good for you. And so I started to feel jealous of the monkeys. Because here I was with this pile of bananas, cutting them, putting them into a bowl. And so I ate one. And it was good. It was really good. I mean, it was sweet, it was ripe, it hit the spot. Have you ever had a problem and then realized that the answer was right in front of you? All along, it was right there. You were standing right in front of the solution. It's not always as clear as hunger and banana, or thirst and water from a rock. But the story of Exodus 17 tells us that God cares about people. And it tells us that God provides. It's also a story about not taking for granted what we have. Often solutions are right there, and somehow we find ways, endless ways, creative ways of not seeing them. The same day that I ate the banana, later on I was back in my room and I was looking ahead to times such as this, when I would be back in this space, back in the pulpit, proclaiming God's word. And I started thinking about the time that the ancient Israelites complained against Moses. Moses, who had at that point already led them out of Egypt, who had already led them across the Red Sea. And so I flipped in my Bible to Exodus 17 and started to think about how God provides. This same Moses who had led them to that point, they now were facing thirst and turned to him and said, "We're thirsty. Walter Brueggemann writes about this time in the wilderness. This was in the aftermath of liberation. They were pursuing God's promises for some land of their own, and their situation was precarious. They needed to live in faith. They went, as Exodus 17:1 says, as the Lord commanded, but they didn't have any water to drink right then. They lacked one of the most elemental resources for life, just like so many people do today. And the problem led to their complaint against Moses. Exodus says that they then began to quarrel with him, and they questioned his leadership. They blamed him and implied that their problem right then was a direct result of his incompetence. He responded by lashing out. Why are you blaming me? Why are you quarreling with me? He might as well have said, I'm Moses. Don't you know who I am? And then they pushed harder. They blamed him again. And so Moses turned to God and lashed out at God. It's interesting here that when he turned to God and he prayed, he didn't say, God, the folks are thirsty. I know you can, and I know you will give them something to drink. No. He didn't ask for God to help the people. His prayer was for self-preservation. What shall I do with these people? I appreciated Pam's reading and that emphasis she placed. What am I supposed to do with them? It was like he said, these are your people, God. These are your problem. You need to do something. They're coming after me now, so you need to deal with this. And take care of me, God. I'm Moses, for crying out loud. And God's response to Moses might appear, if we're following the trajectory of the conversation, maybe insensitive, maybe even indifferent, because God doesn't respond to Moses' complaints. God sort of let Moses have his tantrum and then said, hey, you know the staff that you're holding in your hand right now? You know the staff that you struck the water and it parted? Take that. Take that. Go with some of the people out before the Israelites. Take some of the elders with you. Go to Horeb and strike the rock and the water will come. It's so simple. It's so simple. Yet Moses, the ancient Israelites, and every single one of us don't get it. We complicate things needlessly. We don't have to do that. We don't have to complicate things. We could keep it simple. They could have kept it simple. Follow God, remain obedient, and no matter what happens, keep moving forward in the faith that God is God and we're not. We got caught up in all the reasons around something, and then emotion drives our actions and our decisions, and sometimes it pushes us in strange directions. When we don't know what to do, when we don't know how to respond to something, sometimes the easiest thing to do is to just say no, or to do nothing. We deal with the world based on what we know, but we deal with the world based on our experiences, and that makes sense. We can only know things through the lens of that which we have experienced before. Then the problem is when God asks us to do something, when God calls us to something new, we have to change our paradigm. God calls us to think not only outside the box, but outside of ourselves. And according to this passage, God didn't ever say, Moses, I'm going to protect you. It's okay. I know who you are. God listened and then solved the problem. This is a passage with this straightforward problem. They were thirsty. They didn't have water. And a solution. God provided. Our world is torn apart by so many problems. And sometimes they're really big and insurmountable. And we might not even live to see the solution. Other times, we make problems bigger than necessary. And if we're honest, we're in the constant business of taking things for granted. We can easily take our access to potable water for granted. We have it in every house, every building in our area. It seems like magic. You turn the spigot on, and what comes out is useful for human consumption. Yet, it's not like that everywhere. In La Senda Verde, the tap water wasn't potable, or at least it wasn't potable for me. When I first arrived, I bought bottled water, but I realized no one else was doing that. And I thought, this is going to get pretty expensive if I'm trying to buy water every single day. And then someone showed me after a day or two, there was an electric kettle. And so I was able to take the tap water and boil it in the electric kettle and then have potable water to drink and brush my teeth. But the thing is, for that entire period, every drink, every water bottle filled required forethought. I had to plan ahead. And it gave me a new sense of appreciation for when I came home and I was able to just go to the drinking fountain in the hallway and consume what came out. When we take plentiful potable water for granted, we can struggle to identify with the ancient Israelites. We can struggle to identify with the people in this passage. Yet around the world, there are people struggling to find potable water today. In Gaza, Israel shut off the water supply to some of the areas. Much of the Middle East and sub-Saharan Africa faces significant water stress today. In fact, this morning I saw a news alert that one of the Iranian bombs or drones or something struck a desalination plant in the United Arab Emirates. And it reminded me, with the living water of John and the talk of water for drinking in Exodus 17, how precarious life is for so many people even today. Pollution corrupts the water of so many streams, rivers, lakes, and even the ocean. It seems almost comical when we think back to the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, Ohio, that was so polluted in 1969 that it caught fire. And we've come a long way from that, but we still have a long way to go. We prioritize the things that are right in front of us and find it easy to grow amnesia for the things that we don't see. If we don't face water insecurity or water stress, then it's easy to ignore it. Exodus 17 does something more than just talk about water. It invites us to examine or re-examine our relationship with everything that we have in our lives, everything that we take for granted, whether it's water or air to breathe or democracy or family or people or one another, or the fact that no bombs are falling on us right here, right now. This list could go on and on. There's so many things that we find it easy to forget and take for granted. We're blessed, we're lucky in so many ways. And whenever we stop and we think about all of those things that we have, all of the blessings that surround us every single day, we need to stop and thank God for those things. Thank God for our access to water. Thank God for our safety. Thank God for democracy. We live in a complicated world, and while I don't recommend that we get into the business of stealing bananas from monkeys, sometimes God puts something right in front of us. I didn't experience water coming out of a rock, but once, when I was hungry, I looked down and realized that I was holding a banana. Made me think about how solutions are often right in front of us. We just need to be open to see them. We need to open our eyes. Then the experience made me realize how easy it is to take all of this good, all of the things that surround us, for granted. So for each of us today, we can ask, what is our struggle? When you think about your struggle, when you think about those things that you take for granted, is it possible that you're already holding something that could be the solution? For the ancient Israelites, the solution was right in front of them. Keep faith in God, because God will provide. Moses was already holding the rod that he would use to strike the rock. So what are we holding? And are we willing or able to look to God for our solution? Because it could be right in front of us. Amen.